Hi there, I'm Thomas Aaron. Welcome to my morning coffee. I am 42 years old. I live in Denver, Colorado, and I'm a dog trainer. Let's see, I was born in North Carolina, raised in the hills of West Virginia. Hunting, fishing, outdoors was a huge part of my life. I'm now married. I have 3 kids. One's in college, have 2 at home. And life is good. I like Denver. I've been in the military, worked a number of jobs from the tech industry to HVAC work. But you know, the love of my life is dogs and training dogs, and so that's what I do now. I got my first gun. Well, I imagine like most kids, my first gun was actually a Red Ryder BB gun that I got when I was, I don't even know how old, pretty young. And I know it was pretty young because I got my first real gun when I was 5 years old, and that was a Savage 20 gauge. I remember it was too big for me and it kicked too hard, and my dad had to cut the stock off and put a butt pad on it. And all growing up, I squirrel hunted, rabbit hunted. I even deer hunted with slugs with that gun from the time I was 5 years old until I was 18 years old. My dad still has that gun in West Virginia. Someday I'm going to have to get that from him. As far as a passion for guns, you know, I like guns. I enjoy guns. I shoot guns. I use guns. But I wouldn't say I'm passionate. I mean, they're just part of my life. They're part of my way of life. So, you know, I enjoy my guns. I have a small gun collection. I don't really go out and find guns and collect guns because I want certain kinds of guns or think they're cool. Most of my guns that I have hung on to have either sentimental value or I use them. I've got 3 of them to show you. The first one is a Model 33 22, and this is one of the old single shot 22s with the little lever you have to pull back to shoot it. Deadly accurate. My grandfather gave me this when I was 16 years old, and I still use it today for taught my kids to shoot with it, and I still squirrel hunt with it. And I still think of my granddad when I shoot it. So it's a good little gun, and I've hung on to it. I'll probably never let it go. Well, I'm sure I'll never let it go. Another gun that I brought out for you is this old Mossberg New Haven 12 gauge. This was probably the first 12 gauge I ever shot. It belonged to my dad. It's got a picture of a pheasant on one side and a duck on the other. But it wasn't a real expensive gun, but here we are 25 years later, and it still shoots fine. My kids still hunt with it. And the third gun probably says about the most about who I am, and it's just it's a Stoker side-by-side 12 gauge. It's not a super expensive gun, but it's what I pheasant hunt with. It's reliable, shoots every time. I don't care if it gets scratched. It's a working gun. So hopefully that tells you a little bit about my relationship with guns. How often do I shoot and where do I go? Most of my shooting is either in the line of my work, i.e. I'm gun-proofing dogs, training them so that they can stand to have a shotgun fired over their head out in a field. So, you know, I do that several times a year. You know, hunting season, November through January, I'm pheasant hunting out in eastern Colorado, and that is do a fair amount of shooting then. Shoot a lot of sporting clays to prep for that. And then if I go deer hunting, which I do every 2 or 3 years, I've got .30-06 that I deer hunt with, and I'll go out and do some warm-up shooting with that and get it all sighted in well and everything. So I don't shoot every day, don't shoot all the time, but I shoot when I need to. I'm not overly interested in buying, selling, or trading anything. I definitely won't sell any of my guns or trade them. If there's one thing that I would like to add to my collection, it would be an over and under 12 gauge to commemorate my bird dog Allie, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about Allie in a moment. But something engraved, maybe a Labrador Retriever engraved on the gun with flushing a pheasant or retrieving a pheasant and Allie's name on it. She's a very special part of my life. But yeah, I think that's probably all that I would want. As far as functionality modifications, I don't know. You guys only contacted me a few days ago, and I haven't had a lot of time to think about that, but I'll give it some thought. Yeah, just a working gun. And I honestly, I wouldn't want a gun that's just going to hang on my wall and never be used. But if I had a gun to commemorate Allie, it'd probably be the last gun I ever hunted with, or last shotgun I ever bird hunted with. My life outside of guns is pretty much dog training. That's what I do as much as 12 or 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. I have my family. I spend weekends with them, and I work with dogs, bringing them from knowing nothing to off-leash reliability. I do what's called positive gun dog training. That is training bird dogs, retrievers specifically, using positive training methods. So I don't use shock collars, or I don't use much in the way of aversive techniques. I actually focus on developing a bond with dogs. More on that in a moment as well. But that's how I spend my days. That's what I do. Why should you pick me? That's an interesting question, because I don't mean to be rude, but I don't overly care if you pick me or not. I didn't come looking for you guys. You guys somehow found me. And the lady that I spoke to, very nice lady, she liked my story. And so I guess if you're going to pick me, probably your biggest reason should be because you like my story. My story goes something like this. I was raised with hunting hounds in West Virginia and North Carolina. My dad raised them and trained them and bred them, and that was a huge part of my life, was coon hunting and deer hunting with my dad. And in North Carolina, you can deer hunt with dogs. So hunting with dogs was very foundational for me. And I've always had dogs, always trained them on the side. But somewhere after I turned 18, life happened, and there was the military and there was school. Eventually I met a wonderful woman, got married, had 3 kids, tried out a few different careers, the most recent of which was several years ago I became a tech support engineer for a computer company. Started off as a really great job. I really enjoyed it. But after about 4 years of it, I was so stressed that I didn't know how I was going to get up in the morning to go to work again sometimes. It was, I feel myself becoming overwhelmed by anxiety. At some point, my wife and I took a trip to New Mexico, and we were driving through Alamosa, which is kind of high desert, and there was an RV in the oncoming lane, and a little puppy. She, sorry, I get choked up. Little puppy darted across the road, and RV almost hit her. It hit its brakes, slid, and then I almost hit her as she crossed my lane. I pulled the car over, and I walked down in the ditch where I saw her go, and I spotted her, and she was running away from me as fast as she can go. And so I just sat down in the ditch and just waited. And she came back to me, and I picked her up and handed her to my wife. And my intention was to give her to a Labrador Retriever rescue in Golden, Colorado. But on the way home, she stared longingly into my wife's eyes for 4 hours, and my wife convinced me to keep her. Little did I know that this dog would change my life. So after deciding to keep her, I decided she needed a job, and so I started training her to be a bird dog. And turns out, not only is she a good bird dog, is she the best bird dog in the world? You know, I'm sure there's probably better, but she's really good. She's solid, and it turns out she's really smart. And I developed a bond with this dog that I've never had with another dog. She's I like to call her my heart dog. She's super smart. The things that she can do would probably blow your mind. And unfortunately, I don't have video footage of it all, but we can certainly get it. When I go to the bank to make a deposit, she gives the teller the money. She'll jump up on the counter and hand the teller the money and then get the receipt. You know, she'll drop mail in the mailbox for me. I use her for, she's really stable, so I use her for temperament testing other dogs. In other words, if another dog is aggressive, I can use her to find out why it's aggressive. When I'm working with an off-leash dog, I let them drag a leash, and if they decide not to come back, I can send her after them. She'll go grab their leash and actually retrieve them. There's I'm going to include a link in an email to the person I'm corresponding with a video of her doing something like that. She can open the fridge for me, close the fridge. She's just really versatile and really smart. She'll retrieve anything from anywhere, anytime, whether it's a remote control or my car keys. And sometimes she seems to just understand English. I can give her the car keys and say, go give these to Mama, and she'll run upstairs and give them to Mama. So anyway, I feel like the dog and I are really psychologically linked. And she's actually what got me back into dog training. Without her, I would probably still be slaving away behind a desk somewhere, wondering how I'm going to get through the day. But she actually, in a lot of ways, she brought my life full circle. She brought it back to my youth. And so, I don't know whether you believe in God or not, but I do, and I believe that Allie coming into my life at that time was divine providence. And so that's why if there's any gun that I wanted, it would be one to commemorate her. So I'm going to close it here. You can take this and do what you will with it. If you don't want to use it, it was nice meeting you, and I'm going to try to get a couple of shots of Allie maybe doing some stuff on a different shooting here in the next few minutes, and I'll send that to you as well. And be well. Bye.